Every now and again, quite often for some, splatter is needed to complete a miniature paint job vision. Splatter, you say? Well, splatter, stains, liquid that has randomly hit your miniature for some reason. It could be mud, blood, vomit, slime. A gentleman called Javier kindly passed on a trick to me on how to create splatter effects, and that I now want to share with you. All you need is a straw. I'm using a metallic one that can be washed and reused so that I don't have to throw plastic away all the time, but any regular straw will do. I get a fair amount of paint onto a brush and hold it in front of the Mini, blow out air through the straw onto said brush. The paint flies off, leaving its comfortably brushy home, hits the Mini, and splatter is achieved. I'm using this technique to splatter mud stains onto my black Stormcast Knights, and I'm using a brown liquid pigment from Green Stuff World. This is not necessary, but the consistency of the paint is important. To get your typical splatter, a pretty flowy paint is required. The liquid pigments are already quite watery, but if you use regular paint, which is fine, you have to water it down a fair bit. Sometimes, like with these knights, there are places that don't want to get splattered. The glowy OSL, that means fancy glowy stuff, would look weird if it was splattered, for example. Covering with blue tack is a very efficient way of blocking out surfaces that need to be protected. The splattering process is kind of random, but the more you do it, the better control you get. But to me, the magic lies in this randomness. I could never paint dots this random, and splatter is at its best when it's random. If you use thicker paint, and with that I mean not watered down as previously, you can get a lovely stringy effect. Like with this blood that I'm splattering onto this shield. This is, I guess, how blood would look if splattered onto a shield. It's something I have no real-life experience with, but it does look convincing to me. Another layer of watered-down blood splatter can then be added for a more gory effect. Using a straw and human air power is not the only way. The same technique can be powered by an airbrush. So no paint in the airbrush, you're just using the flow of air that the airbrush shoots out. And this can be really handy if you're applying this effect on larger surfaces, like terrain. Using an airbrush will give a more controllable and consistent result. That means the splatter dots are more evenly distributed and more alike in size. Personally, I like the other approach, the one with the straw, just because random is better in my book. Once you're done with the splatter, it's a nice idea to highlight it a little bit. And that's why I tend to use a darker color for the initial splatter. And then, afterwards, go in and add a lighter shade of whatever color I was splattering right inside the previous splattered dots. Just to lift things a bit, trying to avoid covering the original splatter completely. And this, of course, goes for the blood or any splattered shade used. As a side note, if you really want to get this splattered dirt thing come together, finalizing with some pigments looks really nice. You know, the dusty kind of pigments. Just wanted to throw that in there. This splatter technique is not reserved only for paint. You can use it for stuff like terrain texture pastes as well. Either put it on your brush, like before, or use something net, like I'm using a tea strainer. Putting a sandy terrain texture on one side and then blowing onto the other, and then splattering mud all over. This could be great for mud stains on vehicles, or if you're using a smoother paste, some severe slimy kind of splatter. This was short but sweet and splattery, so I wanted to take a bit of extra time and say hala pinta. Now you're going, hala what? Well, I was contacted by the Filipino scale modelers and miniature painter community. They're working pretty hard at getting this, you know, the mini painting and all that, to grow in the Philippines. And just to give them some credit for that, I wanted to say hi and hala pinta. Just getting this hobby to grow wherever is a very nice thing and deserves support. I probably pronounced the hala pinta thing all wrong, but in essence, apparently it means keep painting, which is a pretty good note to end this video on. Oh, and apart from the please like and subscribe, and if you're really down by the weight of your wallet or just very much appreciate the videos created here, please consider supporting my continued work on these videos on the 52 Miniatures Patreon. Hala pinta.